Hello, good day everybody. Here with Martin Panev, Chief Account Executive and Trading Analyst, GDMFX. Welcome to today's European Session Market Outlook. As usual, starting with the North American markets. Yesterday, the industrial Dow Jones went 10 pips up. The technological Nasdaq went 57 points up, and the Dixie Greenback Index went up to 94.78 from 94.49 points. The calendar events from yesterday and their outcome, starting with the wholesale inventories, which came out a little bit worse than expected, 0.1%. Then we had the retail sales, the Redbud Index, month on month, better than expected, 3.7%, and year-on-year decline, 1.7% worse than expected. Business Optimism Index, 3.4% worse than expected, and Economic Optimism month on month, 3.9% worse than expected. We had the JOLTS job openings, 0.038 million, better than expected. 4-week bill auction, 0.005% lower than previous. 3-year note auction, 0.124% higher than previous. Yesterday we had the Fed's lacquer speech, the title of which was Education, Innovation and Economic Growth. The skills of workers are being changed by technological advances, and thus there should be more investment towards this type of education. He also mentioned how some technological advances are great, but are at the same time put many people out of employment. Given an example with the Bethlehem Steel, who employed nearly 300,000 people. Obama will soon give Congress his proposal for new authorization for the use of military force against the Islamic State fighters, and it will place strict limits on the types of U.S. ground forces that can be deployed. The calendar events for today, not much really. We have the NBA mortgage applications. We also have a speech from another Fed's member, Mr. Richard Fisher. We have the 10-year note auction, the monthly budget statement, which is something kind of important for the US dollar. Tomorrow, we're looking for the retail sales reports. Moving along to the European markets, the German DAX and the French CAC 40, they both went up 130 points for the DAX, 50 points for the CAC 40. Back to US President Obama, who has warned Mr. President Vladimir Putin that Russia will face greater costs if it continues its aggressive actions in Ukraine. Mr. Obama urged his Russian counterpart to seize the opportunity to fresh talks to find a peaceful solution to their war that has raged since April last year. Mr. Putin is due to meet with the leaders of France, Germany and Ukraine at the summit in Belarus today, basically. Greece's left-wing government has drawn up the 10-point plan to replace 30% of its massive bailout deal. Greece will put its plan to eurozone finance ministers in Brussels today, but a swift deal is unlikely, with Greece being warned to abide by bailout terms. Meeting of the EU finance ministers in Brussels is today to discuss the fresh sanctions over Russia, and this is today and tomorrow. From the calendar, tomorrow we have the German CPI and EU industrial production. Friday, EU, Germany and French GDP outlooks. Moving along to the UK markets, the FTSE 100 closed on a doji yesterday at 6,786 points. The GDP estimate preliminary 3 months in January, 0.7%. Industrial production year-on-year for December, 0.5%, 0.2% negative. Manufacturing production year-on-year for December, 2.4%, 0.4% positive. After positive data from the manufacturing field and rise in the GDP estimate yesterday, the pound rallied against its major parts. The sterling gained 0.2% against the dollar and 0.2% against the euro. This is fueling speculations that the Bank of England might raise interest rates this year. In currency pairs, the cable did 50 pips up yesterday, 100 pips range, and it's going up today. Versus the yen, 170 pips up yesterday, 230 pips range, and it's going pretty much sideways as we speak. Versus the Australian dollar, 215 pips up yesterday, 330 pips range. It's going a little bit down today. Versus the loonie, 80 pips up yesterday, 250 pips range. It's going sideways as we speak. We are waiting for the Bank of England quarterly inflation reports. This is tomorrow. Mr. Governor Mark Carney's speech, again tomorrow, and the inflation letter, which is due out for tomorrow. Moving on to the Asian Pacific markets, starting with the Nikkei 225, which has gained over 30 points yesterday, along with the Australian S&P 200 and the Hong Kong indexes. While the markets in China and New Zealand are on an uptrend, looking at green numbers there, banks in Japan will be closed due to a national bank holiday, National Foundation Day. The main events for today are the machinery orders, month-on-month and year-on-year, projected to come far better than the previous, along with the domestic corporate goods price index, which are projected to come out worse than last period measurements. The home loans and the home investments came out better than expected for the Aussie in Australia, but as we keep warning, the major outlooks are due tomorrow, namely employment and unemployment data. Consumer inflation expectations by the end of the day, and Mr. Glenn Stevens will be approaching the public in a speech. The new loans released by the People's Bank of China, which are the value of new yuan denominated loans issued to consumers and businesses during the previous month, is due tomorrow as well. On the currencies front, the Kiwi is still gaining power over its main rivals, while the yen is still in decline. The Australian dollar is little changed before the major data releases due tomorrow. Moving on to the commodities sector, starting with the S&P 500 index, which had a gain of 24 points at 2,059 level at the moment. U.S. stocks rose on Tuesday on hopes that the Greek debt negotiations could result in a deal that stabilizes Europe, while Apple helped lift the S&P 500. The crude oil futures declined for the first time in 4 sessions on Thursday, following the release of a mostly bearish report from the International Energy Agency on global oil supply and demand. In its medium-term oil market report released early in the day, reports that the IEA said the U.S. will remain the world's top source of oil supply growth until 2020. It also predicted global demand for OPEC crude oil rise in 2016 to 29.90 million barrels per day after holding at 29.4 million this year. The West Texas Intermediate had $3 range, went down to 49.85, trading at around $50.50 as we speak. The crude oil stock exchange is due for today. U.S. natural gas prices rallied for the second consecutive session on Tuesday, as forecasts for more colds over the next 2 weeks boosted heating demand expectations. Natural gas is trading at $2.66 at the moment, and it had a range of 13 cents going up today. Gold had a range of $15 yesterday, trading at $1,237 per troy ounce as we speak. Silver also had a range of 40 cents yesterday, now nearing $17. Thank you very much for your time. That was all from me. Cheers and have a successful trading day.